Have you noticed how there seems to be like a day or a week for everything these days? It is stroke week this week, it is homelessness week this week, and sometimes there are some really strange ones that pop up on top of that. Speak Like a Pirate Day, maybe one of my favourite ones that's around. Today is one of those days. Today is Simplify Your Life Day. In fact, it is a whole extended week as well to dedicating and taking out the complexities of your life. Have you ever thought much about how complex your life is and how that might be impacting you? Psychology consultant and author Dr. Jo Lukens is going to help you and I simplify our lives and explain how it actually helps us out as well. Good morning, Dr. Jo.
Good morning, Sarah.
The psychology of simplicity. It sounds like a modern trend, but it actually goes back a lot further than that, doesn't it?
It actually does. So when you look back to some of the Stoic philosophers, they certainly argued that we'd get a happier life if we had fewer complications within it and fewer possessions. And I even managed to find a quote from Confucius who said that with coarse rice to eat and water to drink and my bent arm for a pillow, I still have joy in the midst of these things. So it seems that simplicity is something that has been spoken about for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Why do you think simplicity keeps resurfacing across so many different cultures and faiths and eras?
Yeah, I think the reason that it features so consistently is there is something somewhat universal about how our minds work. So the fewer decisions we're making, the fewer possessions we have, those fewer competing obligations, there's less pressure on our stress symptoms, so it actually gives us a genuine break. So whatever the motivation might be, whether it's for us from a spiritual perspective or environmental or just purely practical, we do know that there's actually some good science that sits behind it.
Fantastic. Let's talk about one of the ways that you can simplify your life and one that Marie Kondo had a big hand in making quite popular, decluttering. Why does clearing out a wardrobe or a junk drawer end up clearing out our head as well?
It's interesting, the flow-on effect, isn't it? The mood is certainly contagious. So we know that every object in our space in some ways is like a small decision that our brain has to process, even if we're not even particularly paying attention to it. So when we can do things like tidy up a drawer, clean out a cupboard, as you said, maybe the clothes that no longer fit us or we no longer have a need for them, we can repurpose them to someone who would want them. What we're doing is we're reducing the visual and the mental load, and that frees up our attention for some of the actual things that really matter.
On ABC Radio Queensland, I'm Sarah Howells, and you're hearing from psychology consultant and author Dr. Jo Lukens. We're talking about simplifying our lives. Decluttering is one way. What about our schedules? A lot of people wear busy almost like a badge of honour, Jo.
They do, and what I would say from a wellbeing perspective is encourage people to think about taking off their busy badge. You often do speak to people and you ask them how they are and they'll reply that they're busy, and even using the word busy slightly puts our blood pressure up a little bit. The challenge for us when we trap ourselves within a life where every hour is committed to, we don't really have much of a margin for our brains to rest and to think clearly. Sometimes saying no to things is a way to help us take that busy badge off, and it's one of the most powerful things that we can do to simplify our lives and our sense of rush and busyness.
And technology seems to be a big driver of that overwhelm today. How does that fit into the picture?
Yeah, so technology, interestingly, when you read about the impacts of technology, there was a time when it was thought that technology is constantly improving and getting faster and getting more ingrained in our lives, which I think resonates for all of us. But we've been talking like that since there was a piece of technology that came along that really, I guess, increased the busyness for people, and it was a thing called the steam engine. So this sense that we are in this busy time with technology has always been with us, but we do know that technology does move at a pace where I guess our nervous systems were never really evolved for it. So if we're feeling constantly pulled and our attention being pulled in different directions, it certainly does add to the stress for us. So we do need to each be mindful and do a little bit of an audit about how technology makes our lives that much more complicated.
Yeah, it can really creep into our everyday moments and making it seem like we're always on as well, not getting that downtime. And I'm just thinking about stepping in to our home at the end of the day as well. Something like simplifying our home decor, does that really make a psychological difference, or is it just an aesthetic preference?
There's actually, again, there's some real substance that sits behind it, and there's been quite a bit of research in all of these areas. But interestingly, when we've got clean lines in front of us, and I guess in some ways fewer things to gather dust. It reduces the amount our eyes and our brains have to process. So that notion of keeping the things that you really love makes a difference. And even for households that have a lot of things going on within them, even if you've got a quiet space, a clean lined space, it can make a real difference if you go and spend some time sitting in those spaces as well. So again, if we're looking for a motivation to clean a few areas of the house up and so forth, we know it'll have a positive effect for our brains.
Yeah, look, that's on my to-do list. I can't stand a mess, but I
Mine
seem
too.
to make one all the time. So
Yes.
if someone is listening at the moment, Dr. Jo, and wants to start simplifying their life this week, what's one small step they could take that would make a difference?
Yeah, I think the key to your question there is the word small. So what I would say is just pick, please don't feel like you now need to go and completely declutter your entire house, because that is a huge task. But maybe there's a drawer, maybe there's a space, maybe there's an area of a desk or some small area where you can make a small difference, and just commit a small amount of time for tidying that area up. And it'll be interesting for you to see just what the flow-on effects are in terms of how you feel when you see that space. Now, you do have to be careful because sometimes that gets contagious and you do end up pulling your whole house apart. So you do need to just little bits at a time, and we know that over time that a little by little, a little will become a lot.
Absolutely. I've got some homework for this afternoon for myself and I'm sure lots of other people as well. Jo, thank you so much for simplifying our life today.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
See ya. That is psychology consultant and author Dr. Jo Lukens, helping you to simplify your life, and a bit of an explanation on how that can help as well, because today is in fact Simplify Your Life Day. So if there was ever a day you thought about taking those small steps to start, I reckon it's a good one.